Sup, Reitanna, it's Reitanna Seishin here. I'm not exactly in the best mood. I just found out that I'm weaker than I was before 2020, so emotionally and mentally. Just don't worry about it right now, and I'll reactivate my Twitter sometime in the next 28 days or something. So if you were on my DeviantArt, you'll know that I read this in a journal, but I expand on it. So I say, Bleach fans, hello! I'm sure many of you have made Soul Reaper or Shinigami OCs or given yourselves a Zanpakuto. I'm guessing it may have been difficult to come up with a sentient sword for you to connect with, since you know it's not real. Or is it? Well, no, it's not, but it can be in essence. It's no secret that my dreams have continuing storylines, reoccurring quote-unquote characters, and multiple places that repeatedly show up. Well, for about a year, maybe two, at the time that I wrote this, I've had some dreams that have basically given me my Zanpakuto. At first, the characters from Bleach would just show up like I couldn't see them, but I could. Oh, that makes sense if you are a fan of the show. It was also Ichigo and the captains, and along with them usually appeared Goku and Vegeta, Dante and Virgil, and some random characters capable of fighting because they always showed up when I was being attacked or something. The captains would never help me when I begged them to help, saying that I shouldn't even be able to see them. Eventually I said, well, if you won't help me, give me Soul Reaper powers, train me. They refused for quite some time. Dream after dream, each time they showed up, I demanded that they train me, and I even stole Zangetsu from Ichigo and kept him as a hostage. That didn't last long. Finally, a Zanpakuto simply appeared in my hands without anyone giving me powers, and I said, ha! Now you have to train me. I love how I said at the beginning of this that I actually proofread it, but here is a beginning of a sentence that's not capitalized. Yay! They were reluctant, especially Soifone, but Byakuya leaned more toward the let's see what happens approach, as in don't train her unless she can figure out her Zanpakuto's name. Time went on. By the way, if you've never seen Bleach or you don't even know the premise, I'm sure you're confused. Don't worry about it. It's an amazing anime if you want to check it out. So, time went on and I still begged them to train me. Ichigo was ordered not to help me. I was mad because I had my goddamn sword. How was I supposed to learn his name without even knowing how? Then about a month or two ago, my Zanpakuto told me his name. It was Graver. It only made sense for it to not be a Japanese name since, I'm American. He told me his name and I was able to summon his Shikai form, though I don't remember his command. His Shikai looks like a long pole with a small axe head at the end and a ribbon-like piece of cloth tied on the pole. I can't remember the color, but I think it was red. As a side note, I think his command is Rise Up, Graver, or something like that. I wasn't sure what Graver could do, but playing around with him showed me that he was best for long-range attacks, which makes sense, since I hate getting too close to people I don't know. Still, this wasn't something very special, was it? Then, just a few nights ago, me and an enormous group of people were going through this trial of survival. You could actually die, but like a video game, you respawned. I can feel pain in my dreams, so this was not fun. I was using my Zanpakuto, not in Shikai, and the extra gun, but I kept fumbling with them because I've been crippled in my dreams ever since the incident with Randy. I have been notorious for getting cut by my own sword because of this, and it fucking hurts. Something appeared that was not part of the trial, and it was only attacking me. He was a humanoid male with long white hair, but he had black bandages over his eyes. He wore a black hooded cloak, countless black belts over his pale chest, black skin-tight pants, and that I assume were leather, and black boots. Normally, I'd find that pretty hot, but instead I was terrified. Why was he just attacking me? He was carrying a scythe, but he never got too close to me. Instead, he was able to swing the scythe, throwing the blade at me, which would then turn like a boomerang back to its place on the pole. He killed me many times. There was a guy at the respawn point that could give people tips before they tried the course again. By the way, getting through the course was a way to prove that you become a skilled fighter. I desperately need to get better. Many people had told this guy about the cloaked figure attacking me, even the captains, but every time they tried to find him, he wouldn't show up. After dying many times, the guy told me to close my eyes and just scream about things that made me angry. He said I needed to have a revelation on my own, to realize something about myself that would finally help me. I screamed about everything that made me angry. He screamed stuff back at me, and finally I shouted, "I'm not a hero." He shouted back, "Then you're a villain." I said, "No, I'm not a villain. I'm not a hero, and I'm not a villain. I'm just me." And that was that. I had to realize that even though I tried to fight evil, it didn't change the fact that sometimes I was the evil. I wasn't the good guy or the bad guy. I was just an average person that had both good and evil inside, and I needed to accept that I was incapable of being just one or the other. I went back through the course, looking over my shoulder for the cloaked man with the scythe. When he showed up and threw his blade at me, my Zanpakuto was able to block it and send it back to him, but it was still a very strong blow, and I wasn't sure if Graver could take it. I'm not sure why I wasn't using Shikai. I still died a couple times, but finally Graver transformed, but this time it became a scythe identical to my enemy's. I was now able to throw the blade as well. I actually managed to get through the course with only a little health left, but before I had finished, I saw the man spin his scythe clockwise, and it took on the form of Graver's regular Shikai. That's when I realized that the man was Graver. He showed me what his power was in Shikai form. I hadn't known what triggered my sword to turn into a scythe, but I figured I must have spun it clockwise without realizing it. Experimenting with it showed that by spinning it like that, Graver could change from an axe to a scythe. As an axe, it was just a long-range weapon, but as a scythe, it wasn't just long-range, it was also a projectile weapon, so its range was even longer. Plus, the blade was a lot stronger and could hit harder when thrown at an opponent. So lo and behold, in a matter of months or so, I obtained a Zanpakuto, learned his name, discovered his true Shikai form, and fought/trained with his spirit form. This is way better than trying to come up with my own while awake, because my mind literally chose this for me subconsciously without my say. I wonder if I'll ever reach Bankai. Since I wrote that journal, I figured out some stuff while awake and asleep. I think I saw Graver's Bankai in a dream. The form is cloaked like he is, and the bandages or whatever on his eyes are on the forehead. There are belts, but the form isn't shirtless or wearing leather pants, but is simply over the Soul Reaper uniform. Instead of holding one axe or scythe, there are blades under the forearms and wrist. The left blade is smaller, thicker, and like a circular axe, while the right is large, thin, and like a circular scythe. It's hard to describe. They're just there, not attached to anything. They can be used as melee weapons and projectiles, but the catch is, while they're on you, they periodically cut the bases of your palms, almost like you have to make a self-sacrifice in order to fight with Graver in Bankai form. This slowly weakens you on top of whatever you're fighting, and you will eventually be forced out of the form. I've only used it once, so it didn't last long. I imagine you have to build a tolerance to it in order to keep the form longer. Whether this was actually Graver's Bankai, I've decided that it fits, so I'm gonna keep it. I haven't reached Bankai again since, but I've used Shikai with Graver a lot more. Mostly in his scythe form. There was something here that I was gonna add to, and I don't remember what it was. Okay. I also called Graver Shikai by saying "Rise up, Graver" in dream. Obviously, the theme here is death. Not sure why this was chosen for me. I honestly hoped for something super fun and cutesy, but I guess I'm so warped on the inside it overpowered my desires to be cute and happy. It still amazes me how incredible my unconscious mind is, like it's a completely separate entity. Off topic, my Harry Potter wand is somewhat shaped like a Japanese dragon, and I keep fucking losing it. Anyway, while awake, I decided that the Soul Society we see in Bleach cannot be for the entire world, as it is solely based on Japanese culture and appears to only have Japanese citizens. I'm not sure if Phone is Chinese due to her name. But if she lived in Japan, that wouldn't make her go to Chinese Soul Society, right? So my headcanon is each country has its own Soul Society, its own 13 Guard Squad, its own Soul Reapers, etc. So the USA's Soul Society would mimic our quote-unquote culture, I guess. This means different uniforms and different swords that would not be Zanpakuto and would not be shaped like katana. The literal translation of Zanpakuto is soul cutter, but I thought that sounded a little cheesy, so I'm calling them soul sabers. And here's why. I settled on the American saber, even though it did not originate from America and existed long before we were colonized. Then again, has anything originated in America? We suck. However, the modern American saber has been used in the military since the Civil War or slightly prior to it. Obviously, they don't use swords anymore because guns, but in ceremonial military marches, they can be seen carrying the sabers. Here's an example of the saber sword, and I show a picture. I figured this was a nice design, especially since the Soul Society has existed for centuries, so they'd have definitely adopted a design we inherited from Europe, though it seems swords like this were also used in ancient Egypt if my research is correct. I personally think it's a sleek and graceful design, easy to handle, light, and perfect for quick slashes. I've also designed the American Soul Reaper uniform, but I haven't drawn the final version. Also, I've designed what Reitanna would look like in the Bleach universe as a Soul Reaper, following along with the story in my dreams, except I doubt she was trained by the Soul Reapers in Japan unless she was in Japan at the time. Though she's not fluent in Japanese because she still has a lot of my flaws. I mean, she's not perfect, Reitanna, so yeah. Once I draw them, I'll add them to this post, and once I get my DA back, I'll upload them here. Sometimes I really hate my dreams, but sometimes I really love them too. So, yep, I still haven't drawn those two pictures yet, so I don't know when I will, and I obviously still don't have my DeviantArt yet, so anyway, that was for the Bleach fans. If you like this video, leave a like, subscribe, spread the word of awesome, become a Reitanna, and I shall see you later, alligators and crocodiles. Goodbye.